fascinating about La Salle. So you have Rene Robert Cavalier Sierra de La Salle. He was the French military person that comes down the Mississippi River, plants all these lead plates that gives the Louisiana Purchase to France before French and Indian War, before Revolution, right? This is in 1680s. He was born 1643 to 1680, so this is in the 1600s. Okay, so that's who La Salle is. Now, something I want to mention about who De La Salle was in 1995. Rene Robert Cavalier Sierra de La Salle primary ship La Belle was discovered in the muck of Montagorda Bay. It's been the subject of archaeological research through an international treaty. The artifacts excavated from La Belle are owned by France and held in trust by the Texas Historical Commission. And the fucking French, what audacity! What audacity the goddamn imperializing fucking French are. Okay, so not only does the French come over here, claim lands that aren't theirs, when they wreck their fucking ship right on enemy territory, they're taking over. They are going to sit there and say that shit's theirs. Nah, discovery. Remember, finders keepers. This is in our land. This is in our country. You don't have any fucking jurisdiction over it. The French, man, reminds me of like Haiti. Okay, so Haiti, they have all the fucking slaves beating the shit out of everybody, killing everybody with all the sugar plantations and shit. And then they have a revolution. It takes about like 8 years of fighting to finally get the Haitian country to be free. And then once they get free, France will only recognize them being a country if they pay them reparations. And why are they paying them reparations? What are they paying? You know, reparations in America, the argument for reparations is to give slaves money that they had, you know, deserved for building the country, right? They built the U.S. Capitol. They built everything, all the fucking, you know, all the plantation, all the wealth that America had was because of the slaves. So reparations, the idea of reparations in America is that we have to pay back our slaves so that way we can, you know, begin the process of reconciliation, right? So the slavery is a huge historical insult to black folks, and without reparations, there's nothing that sets that straight. The French, they're the fucking opposite, okay? The way the French look at reparations is, okay, fine, we'll let you have an independent country. We'll let you be free. We'll let you do whatever you want to do, you know, rights of man and whatever. But you can have your own country, but we want our slaves back. And if you don't give us our slaves back, you got to pay for them. You're taking away a lot of wealth away from us, and we want our money back. So they wanted reparations for their slaves being stolen from them, right? Which makes no fucking sense. That's assuming they were property to begin with. Fuck that shit. And they wind up like taxing Haiti for 150 something years till like 1946. 150 fucking years paying reparations to an imperializing, colonizing fucking, my God. Not only do they deserve reparations back, but that's a slap in the face, and that's fucking bullshit. They never should have paid a dime of that shit. So that's Robert Rene La Salle. Now I'm talking about Native Americans in Kentucky. Okay, Kentucky was run by Native Americans, about 38 different tribes. The Shawnee were all over the place in Kentucky. About 38 different Native American tribes can claim Kentucky as their homeland. Specifically Shawnee, Cherokee, Yuchi, and Chickasaw. Right. So, and then Wyandottes, Delaware, you know, to a lesser extent. But Wyandottes have died. And then you also had Chief Pluggy. Chief Pluggy, who died Christmas Day, 1776, when George Washington was doing his thing. Chief Pluggy had got murdered, and he was a Mohawk. He was a Mohawk Indian, so, or Mingo, right? So he was a deflected Iroquois. So you had some Mingos, right, and Mohawks in Kentucky too. He died. He gave his blood. Chief Pluggy gave his blood for Kentucky. He was fighting the encroaching colonists and wound up dying for it. So his death should not be in vain. All right, he spilled blood. You spilled first blood. Now I want to do this topics debate here. Where did Anwahnee, the Shawnee town at Irvin, go? And then I have George Rogers Clark burned it down. John Finley had something to do with it. Philip Phillips, the Spanish. I blame the Spanish. Now, as the French, the British murdered them. I know it. Daniel Boone cannibalized them. William Irvin got his dick shot off. And that's true. So Irvin, Kentucky is named after William Irvin, and he wound up getting shot in the groin, okay, in a battle with the Native Americans. Now, Irvin Kentucky is, it's white establishment. But before it was a white establishment, you had Anwahnee. Anwahnee. Ahwahnnee. That's a Shawnee town in Irvin. Okay, so you had lots of permanent towns. You had Anwahnee, you had Chenoa, you had Skipakittiki, you had Quiz, who were people in the western side of Kentucky. Probably the Chickasaw, maybe not. Quiz, who DeSoto crossed. And then you had Big Bone Lick. So you had the village at Big Bone Lick. Now, I had just did a couple Google searches trying to find all I could. I couldn't really find much, but I was able to sort of combine all the information and put it here. And then when I sit there and say, hey, we got to care about Native Americans on topics, you always got some fucking racist piece of shit that's like, stop talking about the past. It's inconvenient for me. So if history is not just about the events, it's how we remember the events. If people just say, oh, slavery was back then, all Native Americans was back then, motherfucker, that shit existed and it was bullshit. And no, you shouldn't just be pushing it off to the side saying it was back then. That shit happened and it was bullshit. And you should always be pissed off about it because those are our brethren. That was not our white people hurting brown and black people. That was one man hurting another man, and fuck a man who hurts another man. Fuck any fucking man. I don't give a fuck what your race is. You hurt somebody else, you're the fucking bad person. You're the bad guy. So, you see, William Irvin, he got shot in the dick, right? So somebody should find the spot, excavate where Anwahnee is. Okay, where is Anwahnee? Do we know anything about Anwahnee? We know about Irvin, Kentucky, and then, oh my God, George Rogers Clark at Skipakittiki. They wiped that town out, and then they put the name of the oppressor, the conquistador, on top of it. Just like Louisville, just like Louisiana, right? It's not fucking Quizville. It's not the Chickasaw lands. It's called the fucking Jackson Purchase. So we wipe out the fucking Native Americans. The historians don't write about them, and then we put in their place white establishments named after the white colonizers, and then we're supposed to say, well, that was in the past. Who gives a shit about it? No, it was only about 100, 200 years ago. And it was not just in the past. It totally, where the fucking natives at now? They have a historical, African Americans have a historical justification to enslave us all. Native Americans has a historical justification to genocide us all. Since that is not the possible, that's not going to be what people are going to agree to, but it is historically just. We don't want that. So if you make peaceful revolution impossible, you make violent revolution inevitable. So to stop the violent revolution that should be happening against the white race for all these fucking horrible shit that's happened, we need to make amends with the people that the collective white people have fucked over. Reparations for the natives, reparations for the black folks, reparations for the Mexicans. We need to fucking start, treating people the way they're supposed to be treated. And murder and genocide, being an imperialistic fucking piece of shit, that's not helping me. So, Anwahnee, is that irony? No, it's Anwahnee. So excavate it, tell the Kentucky Archaeological Survey, get folks looking at this one day, or an IGA will be erected in this place. The owners will be shocked at the bones and artifacts. Instead of going to Kentucky Museum, it'll be sold on the black market on eBay, and no new knowledge is gained. The root to our struggles lies in the natives, and we can't move until we've rectified what we've done. So where did Anwahnee go? We know where the lower Scioto, or the lower Shawnee town, right? So where the Scioto and Ohio River was, you got lower Shawnee town, Chenoa, right? So Anwahnee, Chenoa, Skipakittiki, Big Bone Licks, and Quizville, the village of Quiz. So you have the Skipakittiki, lower Shawnee. So lower Shawnee town is wiped out by the flood of 1753. It's on the Ohio River. You have a north and a south part, one in Kentucky, one in Ohio. The flood of 1753, they said, was worse than the 1937 flood. Okay, 1753 flood was worse than the 1937, and the 1937 was like the worst flood like ever known to mankind, I guess. There was the 1997 flood, and I remember being in Gallatin County, northern Kentucky, and the 1997 flood. There was trailer parks that was along the riverside. They got washed out. They got wiped away. Their entire houses were wiped out and gone because of the river. So the exact same thing is what happened to the Shawnee and all the other traders at Lower Shawnee Town in Greenup County. So that's Lower Shawnee Town. That's what happened to them. So we know what happened to them, and that's, I wonder, because the French and Indian War, 1754 to 1763, right, the so-called 7 Years' War, which lasts for 9 years, the French and Indian War starts in 1754, and that's when we don't hear about a Skippakittiki anymore. So you got a flood of 1753, wipes out Lower Shawneeville. Does that precipitate? And then the British and the French say, well, shit, there's no Shawnee village there. Now we're just going to take it. It's ours. You had, Celeron, some guy, sitting there saying, this is French land, and he tried to kick 6 Pennsylvanian traders out of the Shawnee town. But because the Shawnee were heavily fortified and armed, he didn't enforce them leaving. Okay, so he did say that it's French territory that you need to get out, and warn them. But because the Shawnee, and that's how these fuckers are. So when you come up against a psychopathic white piece of shit, they're conquistador. All they care about is dominating and controlling and manipulating, taking your resources, taking your land. If you get in their way, they're going to try to fucking kill you unless you got more guns than them and more people. If they see that they will die and that there will be failure, they don't fuck with you. Okay? And so, I don't know, it's kind of, it's human nature, but it's very Machiavellian. They will fuck with anybody who allows them to be fucked with. Okay? And they actually invited this asshole into the fucking thing. His name is Pierre-Joseph Celeron de Blainville. Okay? He's a French-Canadian officer of Marine. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Anwahnee. I'm talking about Anwahnee, so I can post this underneath this topic page to know that this is the face, this is the man that's fucking sitting there compiling all this information, and you got all these fucking racist, anonymous, bigoted fucking Ku Klux Klaner assholes fucking writing, stop talking about the Native Americans, it's all in the past, who gives a shit? Get the fuck out of here, get some fucking historical curiosity in you, god damn. Seriously, there was a whole fucking, there wasn't many Shawnee villages there, there was one in Irving, Kentucky. Go find it. You had Station Camp, okay? Station Camp was one of the first, stations, one of the first fort or houses or settlers. One of the first settlers to come into Kentucky was called Station Camp. And it was in Steele County, a community, which is also named after a fucking Indian murderer. And actually half of Kentucky counties are named after Indian murderers. So Station Camp is in the Steele County community of Red Lick Road, Kentucky 594, Station Camp Creek, about 4 miles south of Irving. Daniel Boone camped in the area in 1769, and James Shriver established Station Camp in 1828. The Shawnee town Anwahnee was near the same place in the earlier years. The Station Camp post office operated in a couple of locations. So there was a Station Camp right where it was at, right? They camped around in the area. It gets established in the early 1800s, but the Anwahnee had been there before these times, before 1769, before Daniel Boone got there, before, they established it. And then once these racists get on there, stop talking about it, that's the past, who gives a shit? And I say, well, you fucking white racists need to fucking, pull your heads out of your ass. Oh, you're insane, you asshole, fuck you. And that's how arguments in America happen, right? Nobody is convinced by any new scientists are, okay? So if I was to argue with, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I said, hey, here's some new information you didn't know about it, I think he would amend his, his opinion and change his mind. Most people aren't scientists. Most people are just a bunch of arrogant assholes who think they fucking know it all, and an argument doesn't actually, arguing doesn't help anything. All it does is it makes people more polarized in their own fucking opinion to begin with. That's all it fucking does. That's all an argument does. So, let's see, I got a minute left. So, yeah, basically you have a ton of fucking genocide happening all over the place, right? It's not cool. Sometimes the Indian Wars are called 60 Years' War or 500 Years' War because white people have been murdering Native Americans for 500 years all the way up till today. It's never stopped being an imperializing nation. They murdered probably Kentucky native Tecumseh. Puck Shinwa was born here. William Irvin, he bled to death after getting shot in the groin. He must have had children before that happened. William Irvine was the one who shot and murdered Split Log, who's just a red-faced American wearing red stockings, just like the Cincinnati Reds. So he fucking murdered this man named Split Log just because he had red stockings on. So that's the type of man William Irvin is. Oh, he's got red socks? Bang, bang. Now Split Log is dead. Fucking motherfucking conquistador, bloody butcher, and fucking psycho massacring motherfuckers.